Hello and welcome again to another day of classes. Today we're going to be continuing with the Interchange 5th edition level 3, the Green Book, and today we're going to be studying the Unit 5. As always, we'll start with a language summary or the vocabulary for this lesson. So let's jump right in. As always, we'll start with nouns. Let's see. Behavior. The way in which one acts or conducts oneself, especially towards others. So basically, the behavior is the way that you act with other people or different situations. For example, for a dog, it's a bad behavior to pee inside, but it's a good behavior to pee in grass. Challenge. A call to someone to participate in a competitive situation. That is a challenge. Cheek. These are your cheeks. You can get kisses on your cheeks. And when someone slap you, they slap you on your cheeks. Both of them. Chopsticks. These are chopsticks, and it's usually used in Chinese food. Cooking. This is cooking. Concern. Make someone anxious or worried. When you're concerned or you concern somebody or you have a concern, it's when you're thinking a lot about something that makes you feel like, oh my God, I'm really worried about this. That is a concern. Culture. The culture are the different traditions and elements of a country or, you know, type of town that are characteristics of that specific town or country. For example, if you go to Mexico, part of its culture is this type of dressing, the way the food that they eat, the things that they do, etc. Culture shock. I love it here. Fight on. No one understands me. Everything is so different. Oh, it's not bad here after all. I even kind of like it. A culture shock is when you travel to a different culture. It's like if you live in Dominican Republic and then you go to, I don't know, to Spain and you see that everything is different there. The people are not the same, the customs are not the same, and you may feel overwhelmed by it, like this guy right here. But then you start accepting it and feeling it, getting to be good there. A custom is what I mentioned. A traditional and widely accepted way of behaving or doing something that is specific to a particular society, place, or time. Basically, a custom is something that everyone on a country thinks that it's okay and it's accepted. Like in Asian countries, this type of dressing and makeup is a custom. Elbow. This is your elbow. And this one here. We have two elbows on each arm. Well, one elbow on each arm. Expectation. A strong belief that something will happen or be the case. For example, the expectations were in 2020 were to go out to the beach a lot, but the reality is that we cannot go there because Corona. Eye opener, something that surprises you and teaches you a new facts about life, people, etc. So, an eye opener is something that makes you open your eyes and think, "Oh my God, I wouldn't have think about this." Handshake. This is a handshake because you take both hands and you shake them. Host. Someone who has guests. Basically, it's the owner of the house that people come to visit. Language. These are languages. Spanish is a language, Russian is a language, German is a language, English is a language. Meal. These are meals. It's basically a food. It's like a dish. You usually have 3 meals a day. One in a breakfast, lunch, and evening. Oh my God, sorry. Lunch and dinner, sorry. Outsider. A person who is not liked or accepted as a member of a particular group, organization, or society, and who feels different from those people who are accepted as members. An outsider is a person that is not in part of a group. Pamphlet. These are pamphlets. Let's see some adjectives. Anxious. It's worried or nervous, like she's looking right now. Uncomfortable and comfortable. He is comfortable, look at his smile, and he's like really good. And he is uncomfortable because it's not feeling well with his body. Confident. When you're confident is when you can believe that you're okay with the space or the things that you're doing and you know that you can do it. You're aware of your abilities, basically. Curious. When you're curious, you're like really looking into all of the details. You want to know everything about different things. For example, kids are curious by nature. Embarrassed. When you're embarrassed is when you feel bad or you feel really like awkward and stuff about things that happen to you. For example, if you fart in public, then you will be feeling embarrassed. Enthusiastic is a type of person that it's really energetic and have a really high, it's really hyped. Like this girl, she's enthusiastic. Excited. It's similar to enthusiastic, but enthusiastic is a type of person basically. You can be enthusiastic and you're usually like this. And excited is something more momentarily. Like you can be excited for a moment or because of something, but it's not like you're gonna be excited every day. An enthusiastic person is regularly excited basically. Fascinated. When you're fascinated, it's when something makes you excited and you cannot believe it. It's like you wouldn't even think it's possible for this thing to happen. Homesick. When you're homesick, it's when you're really missing your family. You want to go to your country or to your house and start being with them again, and you're really missing them. That is homesick. Insecure. Having little confidence and being uncertain about their own abilities. It is the opposite of confident. Nervous. When you're nervous, you are thinking a lot about things and it makes you be worrying all the time. Uncertain. Not knowing what to do or believe, or not able to decide about something. When something is uncertain, you are not sure about anything. Worried, unhappy because you're thinking about problems or unpleasant things that might happen. If you think that bad things are gonna happen, that's when you're worried. Lively, full of energy and enthusiasm, interesting and exciting, basically. Passionate, having very strong feelings or emotions. When you're passionate about something, you are like really into it, you really like it. Picky, usually with eaters, like when you are eating, picky eaters or picky, it's someone that really chooses a lot when eating something or choosing things. Like they will not accept anything. For example, if this kid doesn't like eggs, he will see it and he will not want to eat it. Let's see some verbs. Drop by, to visit someone. Like when you say, oh, I'm gonna drop by your house. And it's that you're gonna be going to that house. Feel. To experience something physical or emotional. How does it make you feel? Basically, it's to have emotions. Get used to. To become familiar with something or someone. Japanese food. That's hard to get used to. Well, it depends. If you like it, you get used to it really fast. Get sick is when you start having or being sick. Go out on a date. When you all go out on a date, it's when you're knowing, getting to know a new person in your life, and you go to out for a dinner or to watch a movie to get to know them better. Greet someone. When you greet someone, it's when you say hello or the good mornings. The greetings are the first salutes to the people that you're gonna be talking to. Hang out with. When you hang out with, you use this when you're saying that you're gonna be having or spending time with different people. You can hang out with friends, you can hang out with family, etc. Have a baby. When you have a baby, it's when you get really in love with another person and funny things happen, and then you get to have a baby. Hug. This is a hug. It's a side hug, actually. Miss, you may not be here with me, but thoughts of you are always in my heart. I miss you. When you miss someone, it's when you want them to be with you again, and they cannot be with you in this exact moment. Tip. Basically, the tips are the money that you give for a good service in different restaurants or different services. Point out. Well, to point out is to point with your finger, but it also means to emphasize on a specific characteristic of something. For example, usually when we have something, let's see, like here, get used to become familiar with something or someone. That is the basic definition. But then I point out that this is not exactly always like this. To point out is to say as something a specific characteristic. Split. It's to divide evenly. If you split something, it's when you put it half and half. Take photograph. Okay, that's what you say when you take photographs, and you have pictures, new pictures now. Take up. When you take up is when you're on the floor and then you go up, usually with planes. Okay, turn down. When you turn down, it's when you like dislike it or you say no. Let's see some adverbs. Abroad, in or to a foreign country or countries. When you're abroad, it's when you're in a different country than the one that you were born. Along. Along means with. Like if you're going on this road, you can say go along this road. If you're gonna cut a paper and you have these markings to cut there, cut along these lines, for example. Appropriately. What are other words for appropriately? Fittingly, suitable, properly, fitly, duly, befittingly, correctly, accordingly, rightly, well. Appropriately, it's basically having or doing the things that are, you know, they are expected for the different situations. For example, if you go to with a bikini to a beach, then you are having clothes appropriately clothes. But if you go to a wedding with bikini, then it's not gonna be appropriate. The same that if you go with a dress or smoking to a beach, it's not gonna be appropriate. Especially for a particular reason. Especially, it means because of this specific thing, this. Okay, very good. That's all of the words on the vocabulary for today. We're gonna come back here when we get to the grammar. That it's gonna be noun phrases, but wait for them. Okay, so let's see the things that we have here on the book. Unit 5, expanding your horizons. In this unit, we're going to be discussing living in a foreign country. This is for this video. And on the next video, we're going to be describing cultural expectations and differences. Okay, very good. Let's start with these perspectives. You're going to listen to people talk about moving to a foreign country. And you're going to check the concerns you think you would share. So, things that you will also feel. Okay? So let's listen and read, and then we're gonna check.
Unit 5, Expanding Your Horizons. Page 30, Exercise 1. Perspectives. Challenges of Living Abroad. Part A. Listen to people talk about moving to a foreign country. Check the concerns you think you would share.
One thing that I'd really miss is hanging out with my friends.
Something that I'd be worried about is the local food. I'm a picky eater.
Getting used to a different culture might be difficult at first.
I'd be worried about not knowing how to get around in a new city.
The people that I'd miss the most are my parents. We're very close.
Not knowing the local customs is something I'd be concerned about.
I'd be nervous about getting sick and not knowing how to explain my symptoms.
Communicating in a foreign language could be a challenge.
Okay, very good. So which ones will be something that worries you or concerns you? For me, it would be like this one. I'd be nervous about getting sick and not knowing how to explain my symptoms. It will be really, really, concerning to be in that situation. But something that we can do is to look for our symptoms on internet in a language and then translate them or show it to the doctors. And another things that will really concern me is that getting used to a different culture might be difficult at first. It really can be difficult because everything is way, way different. Okay? Okay, now what are the things that might, get to concern you if you were living abroad? Okay, you can comment them down below. Okay, so now let's go to this word power. Mixed feelings. These words are used to describe how people sometimes feel when they live in a foreign country. Which ones are positive? Which ones are negatives? You're going to be writing P or N for each one of these words. Okay? So take your time to complete this, and then we're going to check if they are positive or negative. Okay, you finished? Let's check. Well, anxious is negative. Comfortable, it's positive. Confident, it's positive as well. Curious, it's positive. Depressed, that's negative. Embarrassed, that's also negative. Enthusiastic, it's positive. Excited is also positive. Fascinated, positive. Homesick, negative. Insecure, negative as well. Nervous, negative. Uncertain, uncomfortable, and worried, all of them are negative. Okay? If you have those answers, very, very good. Okay, now let's continue. Now we're gonna be having the grammar for today, and it's gonna be noun phrases containing relative clauses. Interesting. And as I mentioned to you, we are gonna have some materials. Noun phrases containing relative clauses. Let's see this. Well, first of all, a noun phrase, okay, it's this. Basically, we start with a noun and then we say a relative clause. The relative clause are basically a type of sentence that it's describing something that is relative to the first thing that we said. Example, if we say one thing, that it's a noun, and I'd be nervous about, this is relative clause to this one thing. One thing that I'd be nervous about, and then we say the object. What's the thing that we want to say about this? That's why it's a noun phrase. It's used a sentence or a couple of words together that make just one noun. But we make it like this. Basically, a noun, like a one thing, a person, a pet, a food, etc. And then we say that, who, which, and the relative clause, something that you think about it, and then you say what it is or who it is. For example, one thing I'd be nervous about, or one thing that I'd be nervous about is the food. Okay? A food that I really like is pizza, for example. A person who I'd miss is my mom. Okay? So, a person who I'd miss. And if you notice, we're using the relative clauses with the correct relative pronouns. If it's a thing, you can say that or which. If it's a person, it's who or that as well. Okay? And if it's time, it's when, etc., etc. Something that I'd be excited about is trying different food. The thing that I wouldn't be nervous about is missing my family. You see? In this case, we're taking both noun phrases with gerund phrases, if you remember from a couple of classes before, or I think it was in the previous book. Okay, now let's see this. Here we have the subject and here we have the object. This is the way that we put it together with the verb is. One thing that I'd be nervous about, all of this is just one subject because it's a noun phrase, and then we have the object. One thing that I'd be nervous about is the food. One thing that I'd be excited about is trying different food. The food is one thing that I'd be nervous about. This is the way to change the object for the subject. Then instead of saying this, we can change it to the other way by this is. Okay, so this is something to take in mind. The food is one thing that I'd be nervous about. Trying different food is one thing that I'd be excited about. So you can write it both from the start to the beginning to the end and the end to the beginning. Let's see with this. Trying different food is something that I'd be excited about. It's correct. Missing my family is the thing that I wouldn't be nervous about. It's also correct. My mom is a person who I'd miss. That is also correct. Very good. Okay. Noun phrases containing relative clauses. This is still the topic. As a subject, one thing that I'd really miss is my mom's cooking. Very good. My mom's cooking is one thing that I'd really miss. So we basically can use these noun phrases as subjects and as objects. Something that I'd be nervous about is making new friends, or making new friends is something that I'd be nervous about. Two people who or that I'd email every day are my parents. My parents are the two people who or that I'd email every day. Okay? Very good. It's really easy, and I hope that you understand it. But look at this. Noun phrases with relative clauses is the exact same thing that we saw. We can put it as a subject or as an object at the beginning or the end. Something that I'd be worried about is the local food. The local food is something that I'd be worried about. One thing that I'd really miss is hanging out with my friends. Hanging out with my friends is one thing that I'd really miss. The people who were dead I'd miss the most are my parents. My parents are the people who were dead I'd miss the most. Okay? So I hope that you understand this, because it's actually quite easy, and I know that you're really intelligent and you all understand this on the first try. But if not, remember, you can listen one more time and go back on the video and watch it again. There's no problem. Okay, you can take this to practice a bit. You can complete these sentences about living in a foreign country and using the phrases below. My friends, my family, getting sick, trying new foods, being away from home, my grandmother's cooking, and make sentences with this. It's something I'd be very enthusiastic about. Okay? For if it's about living in a foreign country, okay. Speaking for a foreign language is something I'd be very enthusiastic about. That can be a really good answer for that, or a really good example for that. So take your time to play with this and practice a bit, and then when you finish with that, we can go and finish with this video with the next exercise. Okay, you take your time. Very good. I hope that you could practice. Now, for the last thing, we're going to be looking at this and listening to this pronunciation. Word stress in sentences. Really, really interesting. Listen and practice. Notice that the important words in a sentence have more stress. And if you notice, I just did that. Notice that the important words in a sentence have more stress. That's how you usually speak in English. You give more stress or more importance to the important words. But let's listen to the book and then we're gonna practice. Okay, let's listen.
Page 31. Exercise 4. Pronunciation. Word stress in sentences. Part A. Listen and practice. Notice that the important words in a sentence have more stress.
Uruguay is a country that I'd like to live in.
Speaking a foreign language is something I'd be anxious about.
Trying new foods is something I'd be curious about.
Okay, very good. Did you notice? Uruguay is a country that I'd like to live in. It's more subtle when you're speaking because it's like Uruguay is a country that I'd like to live in. But if you notice, if you pay attention closely, there is a word stress on specific important words. Speaking a foreign language is something I'd be anxious about. Trying new foods is something I'd be curious about. There's always like a specific word that gets more stress because of the importance, and that is the rhythm that you need to follow when speaking in English. Okay, let's practice one more time. Uruguay is a country that I'd like to live in. Speaking a foreign language is something I'd be anxious about. Trying new foods is something I'd be curious about. Okay? I hope that you understand it and you can practice that. But that's been everything for today. I hope that you liked this class. And on the next class, we're going to be describing cultural expectations and differences. So I hope that you look forward for it. But that's been everything for today. So see you in the next time. Bye.